Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in to the Right at Home podcast with me, Steve Blank. On this edition of the podcast, I'm joined by Michael Bardales. Michael is a true Bay Area native and has a strong passion for all aspects of real estate. Currently an Oakland resident, Michael was raised in the city of Pittsburg and was born in the city of San Francisco. He's been involved with real estate since 2003 with a strong emphasis in real estate financing for primary residences, investment, and commercial properties. During this call, we explore our hometowns, our current cities, the Bay Area as a whole, Michael's journey throughout real estate, being a real estate agent in the midst of COVID, diversity, personal brand, creative content, and so much more. The Right at Home podcast is brought to you by Dolo Media. Dolo Media is a marketing agency delivering brand strategy, creative content, and digital distribution solutions. Want to learn more about how Dolo Media clients are generating six figures in real estate commissions and 8 times the return on their investment through organic social media alone? Visit www.dolo.media or call 303-218-6614 today. And now the Right at Home podcast with me, Steve Blank, and my guest, Michael Bardales.
How's it going, man?
Good, brother. How are you? I appreciate you making the time, man. Nice to meet you.
Yeah. Sorry about that. My camera's all funky. Good, man. Good to meet you, too. Where are you based out of?
Just moved to Land Lakes, Wisconsin from Boulder, Colorado, believe it or not.
Nice, man. How you like it?
It's great, man. So I'm a Philly native, and a lot of the things that I thought I was maybe looking for in making the shift to Colorado, I'm really finding here a lot of just a lot more space. The pace is much slower. I think the town that I live in now is a town of 700 or 800 people, if I'm not mistaken. So
wow, man.
Things are a lot more chill. And I don't give you that to say like I moved here with the mindset to retire. Like I still hustle, I do my thing,
Yeah.
I work hard, but the ambient buzz just kind of doesn't ring as loud. And that aside, like what better? Have you ever been to Wisconsin? I guess let me start there.
Man, no, I have not. I am a California guy. I've been to a few states, Great Lakes, mainly the South. I've never been on the East Coast at all or the Midwest, man, to be honest with you. I did go to a few countries, but not many states. I've probably been in like 4 states.
Right. So I ask you that just to see if you had any like concept of what the landscape is like out here. I guess as, you know, further south, big towns, big cities, Green Bay, Madison, stuff like that. Where I live physically on the border of Wisconsin and the Upper Peninsula of Michigan.
Okay.
And then another stone's throw to the border of, let's say, Canada. So
wow,
I'm like
man.
way up there, and it's super, super rural. So I guess I give you all that to say, like, in a time like we're in right now, whether it's COVID or civil disturbances and politics and upheaval, this is about as close as I can get to off the grid, you know, with still having all the amenities.
Yeah, man. Well, I commend you for that. I would definitely love to be off the grid. I'm in Oakland, California. I am in the thick of things.
Yeah, absolutely. What's I guess big picture, what's the energy like or the vibe like? I mean, I traveled the country for a few months before settling in here, so I feel like I've come to learn that it's pretty similar all over the country, but to degrees, things like masks or distancing or the anxiety and the fear that is complementing the current situation so abundantly just seem to relate to different communities in different ways. What's it like in Oakland?
What? Well, Oakland is a Bay Area, right? So for us, we are a center of Berkeley. We are a center of San Francisco. We are a center of I think where change happens, you know, where change is even gets developed. You know, this is where the meeting of the minds happen is in the Bay. You know, I think the things that happen, you know, in the Bay affect things nationally and globally, to be honest with you. So for here, you know, when things happen in, you know, as police brutality, anything like that, chances are Oakland's going to be the first protest, right? That's just kind of like the thick of things out here. And being in the part of that city, man, we hear it all from the morning to the night. You know, you hear the protesting, you hear whatever happens at nighttime. And it takes a toll on the city, definitely. You know, I mean, you got to wake up the next day to figure out what happened. So that's what I mean. Like, we're definitely in the thick of things. And even a city over like San Francisco, where my whole family's from, you know, we're super affected in regards to that as well. So yeah, being in the Bay Area is kind of like ground zero, man. So being where you're at sounds like where I want to go.
Right on. No, it's nice, and there's obviously, the grass is always greener. Like there are things that I miss every day about,
For sure.
Philly and about, Boulder and Denver. By all means, may very well call Colorado or any other state forever home one day, but just given the circumstances, we were like, so we can spend less, we can be a little further away from it all, and just have an opportunity to kind of focus on ourselves and build and grow, whether that's like, personal development, inside, outside, whatever, whether that's building your business or your program or whatever it is you're doing, especially with the onset of like the stay-at-home landscape that has come with COVID. There's been a lot of time for personal development and self-reflection, and people who a lot of times said they never had the time to get that license or write that book or
Right.
do whatever it is, suddenly found themselves with a lot of time on their hands. I do wonder, as a real estate agent, did that impact your day to day in terms of workflow at all? Or is it like a real estate agent is on the road and working from home and out in the field anyway? So like, it's really no different for you today than it was pre-COVID, or?
Right. Well, man, this is like my fifth market I've been in. I've been through a lot of markets. I've been doing this since I was 25 years old. I'm 41. So being that this happened this time, obviously a shift was going to happen. So what I did was nothing, to be totally honest with you. I took the month of April off to kind of figure out what to do, because I learned in the previous market, sometimes you move too fast might get you in trouble, right? So for me, I kind of stood back and kind of just let the market just kind of figure itself out. And it figured itself out in May. So May, it became a virtual market. So for us, we had to get digital. Being that we're blessed to be in the Bay Area, a lot of the stuff that happens as far as like products like Apple and technology and things of that magnitude, it happens in the Bay Area. So we kind of just adapted fast. I started a podcast, so I had to get virtual. I couldn't network anymore. I couldn't speak on panels anymore. I couldn't do that, but I still want to continue my voice in real estate. So I did a lot of things like started my podcast, did a lot of virtual events on a monthly basis. I think I did like 10 virtual events since COVID happened. So I still had a network. I just had to do it in a different way of it, right? And then in
Absolutely.
regards to how we go about business, yeah, I mean, I have a COVID backpack. I got mask, I got sanitizer, I got gloves, I bought a gimbal, I have an iPad, I'm virtual. So I invested in equipment, I invested in a microphone, do buyer consultations, I invested in a gimbal, do virtual showings. So you have to adapt. Yeah, I mean, definitely that's where our world changed a lot. But then also having to navigate to strangers like, yo, I have to wear a mask. I'm doing all this stuff and you're just meeting me. So you got to understand the people part of the business too. So to be able to like be virtual, I would say change your mindset more into like taking care of these clients or whatnot. And at the same time, rates dropped. So when rates dropped, the market went on sale. So on top of that, right now, man, people are closing business like no other. So you had a combination. It was a storm, but I could see it settling right now. So my question is kind of like, what's going to happen when this market settles? Because a lot of this was like low hanging fruit. A lot of people got into real estate or deals because it was easy, but it's not going to be easy in the coming months.
Absolutely. I want to ask you about some of those other markets and where you were born and kind of how you came to live in the community you do and settle on the market. Are you native to the Bay Area, or are you like, where were you born?
Yes, I was born and raised in San Francisco, California,
Right
the
on.
Mission District. When I was 10, I moved out to Pittsburg, California. I'd say that's where I'm from. The reason being, even though I was born in San Francisco, that's my roots. Being when I was 10 years old, that's when I did my first everything, rode my first bike, did my first this, so on and so forth. And I did it in Pittsburgh, and I loved that community a lot. I still have a business out there. And then 14 years ago, I moved to Oakland. So I live in Oakland now for the last 14 years. So majority of my real estate business career has been in Oakland, California, has been the Bay Area. I've been doing it for 16 years. So yeah, 14 of the 16 have primarily been like Alameda County with San Francisco County. And because my family has roots in the Mission District, I still get to go to San Francisco a lot, and I still have a lot of ties there. And actually, I just took on a new position that will be having me work in the city a lot too. And actually, in Colorado, we're in Colorado as well. So,
Yes.
so definitely a Bay Area native, born and raised. Did the military for 4 years, so I went out and served for 4 years as well, but came right back to the Bay Area.
It was Navy.
Navy, man, United States Navy, USS Constellation.
Right on. Yeah,
Nice.
I picked that up from your LinkedIn, not from the mug. I actually couldn't see the mug.
Okay.
But so I'm learning a lot of things so far. I'm learning that Pittsburg, California is a place. I was definitely planning on asking you about that as a native East Coaster. That certainly caught my eye. What about, or I guess what prompted the move to Oakland? What made you make that shift to call Oakland and the area home?
Yeah, I always tell people I live in Oakland. I'm not from Oakland. I think in the Bay Area, there's that pride of people being natives. I never want to take it away from them. But actually, my kids, to be totally honest with you, I had a 2-year-old, a 4-year-old, and a 5-year-old. They were about to start kindergarten. I didn't want them to go to Pittsburgh because I kind of felt like, well, being from Pittsburgh, my wife is from Pittsburgh. We kind of understand that. I wanted something different. So I was going to move to a suburb called Hercules. My Dia said, no, move to Oakland. I said, fuck, no, I'm not going to move to Oakland. I'm not going to move to Oakland. Long story short, I moved to Oakland Hills. Very, very fortunate to be in that area and just raise my kids here. So my kids technically are from Oakland. So the whole reason being was just to kind of try a different city, and it stuck. We own property in Pittsburgh and we still do, but we decided to come to Oakland just to give it a shot. And I loved it. Fell in love with the city, fell in love with the community. Opens its doors up, and especially my kids, man, they're so diverse. I got a skater, got this super educated girl, and I got this businesswoman here. All three of my kids, and I credit that to their lifestyle in Oakland.
Nice. What I guess what is let's talk a little bit about lifestyle in Oakland and some of the things that attracted you there and some of the things that you find yourself being excited about every day when you wake up and when you go to sleep about the community.
Diversity. That's important to me. And everyone's opinion, I think that's what we welcome here in the Bay. We're especially in small groups, you know what I mean? Like bigger groups and organizations, you can get, your voice heard and stand up for a certain thing. But myself, I've always been a person of the people. So like for me, I like just talking to everyone about every different things, every walk of life, every aspect of it, no matter what it is. So for me, coming here, I became more of a people person and got to meet a lot of different people because Oakland now is a melting pot of people not from Oakland. So you get a lot of diversity from people from like Nebraska moving here, from the East Coast, people from different countries as well moving to Oakland because of jobs out here, right? So tech is huge out here. So a lot of these people are moving out here for tech. So you get to meet that, but also the old stories of Oakland, like back in the days when the Black Panthers were around, when the docks were good, when Jack London was popping. I mean, like just the history of itself, like it's very unique. And I think it thrives to keep its culture, unlike San Francisco, that kind of like, there's some areas that keeps its culture, but Oakland wants to keep its identity, right? So that's why in Oakland, we don't have a mall. There's not really big chain restaurants out here. It's just not a lot of mom and pops. So a lot of people here are fortunate to have a good palate because there's not like your, I don't know, BJ's where it has like 100 things you can order from. If you want a burger, you go to that burger place. You want Chinese food, you go there. So I think the culture, the food here is great, and the people are awesome.
That's awesome. Would you say that's part of the identity of Oakland is the small business aspect, the lack of big box stores and national brands?
Yeah, I like that. We got our big people here too. We have like Pandora. We have Kaiser, which is pretty huge or whatnot. But also too, they embrace the community too. They give back. Everybody wants to give back here in Oakland for each other. Which I really like as well.
Awesome. Can you tell me a little bit about your origins in the world of real estate? How did you come to, what was your first introduction to real estate? Was it buying a house of your own? What made you take an interest in the business, and what was it like kind of onboarding? And I guess let me start by asking, how long ago was that? When did you become an agent?
I got in real estate 16 years ago, man. I started when I was 25. I actually
Nice.
started off as a loan officer. I was working at 24 Hour Fitness at the gym,
Okay.
and it was like 2004. I just had my first daughter, and these guys were coming in like heavy, man. They were coming in with like Mercedes and like BMWs and all this stuff. And I went to school with some of these guys. I'm like, you're making this money? How the hell are you doing this? And they said they were doing loans at the time. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. So I got a job doing loans, but I didn't know nothing about loans. Again, I come from the inner city, right? So first generation born here, I didn't know anything about credit cards or interest rates or anything like that, especially at 25. So all of a sudden now I went to this program to teach me how to be a loan officer, but I did know sales. I mean, I was really, really good at sales. So I used to make 357 calls a day, just calling, cold calling for leads, so on and so forth. I finally did well. I started my own team. A year later, I started my own brokerage. And that was from like '06 to '07. And then the market crashed, man. Market came tumbling down. So I actually had to box up my whole office, put it in my garage. And I was just kind of like, I guess, unemployed for a few months. But I finally got a job back at a bank. That's when I learned lending on a whole different level. I was actually a residential lending manager for a private bank in San Francisco. And I got to learn more things about the aspects of mortgages, not just how to sell them, but how to package them off, how to sell them on the second market, so on and so forth. 2 years later, I became an in-house lender for Better Homes and Garden. And in 2009, I actually made a shift to real estate. So I actually started in my own basement of my house, pretty much, just me, myself, and I. A year later, I grew a team. 2 years later, I grew a franchise. And now I'm a team leader for East Bay Group with Compass. We have about 10 people on our team. So I basically started from the bottom, man. Just, started, just wanted to make money for my family. But
What
then I fell
prompted?
in love with real estate.
Right on. Was the, like, so you say you wanted to make money for your family. Is there a huge potential pay gap between the loan space or being real estate? Like, after being in the loan space for a number of years at that point, what prompted the shift to say, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and be a broker?
Yeah, money. Like, don't get me wrong. I'm here for the people. I would definitely want to help my community, but also I'm working, right? This is my job. So for me, I need to make money. So yeah, when the Frank Dodd Act came out in 2009, it changed the conversation of loan officers. So the prior comp plan, the way you got paid off loans have now changed. So to kind of break it down a little bit, it would be like 3% a loan versus now only 1%. So now I had to do 3 times the amount of business just to make the same dollar amount I was to do my regular business. So if I had 10 clients, for example, and I was making 30 grand, I would need 30 clients now to make that same dollar amount. So they
Gotcha.
took away that from the loan officers. However, they didn't on real estate. Real estate comp plans, and still are about 2.5 to 3% a deal.
Gotcha. So that would have me looking for a potential career shift as well, huh?
Yeah. And also I was what helped it was I was actually an in-house lender for a real estate company. So I was working with realtors, like 60 of them. So I got to understand their behavior and what they're doing. I was like, okay, I can do it, man. If this is what they're doing, I can definitely do it. So I switched it over. And actually my lending background, even to this day, is so huge. It helps me a lot get my business, just based on my lending career.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
What are some of the things that you saw some of those people doing, some of those brokers doing, like those moments when you thought to yourself, man, I could do that? Like, how does the path to become a licensed real estate broker, i.e., working through that course material, whatever the duration may be, getting through that exam, how much of that is a part of your day to day, and as it may or may not relate, what is the actual body of work like for a real estate agent?
Well, in general, like lending and real estate is kind of like science and art. With lending, there's a science behind it. You have to have an equation to qualify for this program, right? You need a credit score, you need income, you need all that. So based on whoever I am as a person, I can only do what I can for you based on what you provide me. In real estate, it's an art. You have to be sort of that person to show a house. You have to sit there and conversate. You have to do all that. So I've always had that, I guess. I was always a people person. I loved, talking. I can definitely sell. So for me, I got kind of bored of the science part of real estate. Like, man, these people are good, but I can't work with them because their FICO score isn't this amount. I can't do this because of X, Y, and Z. Where real estate, I mean, I'm not I mean, to be honest with you, and we're opening doors. The house sells itself. You know what I mean? Like literally, like I don't have to tell somebody that's a fridge, right? So, but it's the art of the deal. Okay, what's the price? How do we close on time? What do we do? So on and so forth. That's what we get paid for. So for me, being able to like be a problem solver, I really liked. That's really was majority of the things out there is like problem solving, understanding how to like maneuver with clients and be more of a counselor, get them to understand things, get to help them. And then yeah, the technical part, which is like inspections or whatnot. So I feel like I knew the technical side already. I just wanted to do more of the artsy sales side, which to me is really cool.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
You mentioned earlier that the onset of COVID and the stay-at-home landscape forced you to kind of double down on different aspects of technology. Within that, you've obviously got, at the very least, a respect for brand and your own personal brand. Is that something that you were very cognizant of before the flip of that switch with COVID, or is your relationship to the idea of personal brand something that came with your relationship to technology and social media, etc.?
Well, I mean, branding is important as a salesperson. I mean, like, I remember Jordan said one time, like, worry about the game, the brand will come. And I think with, knowing that it is a branding thing in real estate, I think a lot of realtors go about it that way. They try to brand themselves before they even do business. Nowadays, followers get more looks than people that actually produce. I know people that have like 10,000 followers did maybe 10 businesses versus a friend of mine who has 100 deals going on and probably no followers, you know what I mean? So but for me, I've always been a team leader. So I've always been a broker owner, right? I never really been like just an agent within a company. So for me, I never desired too much about brand building within me, but brand building within my team members. Like I always wanted to be Phil Jackson, I've always wanted to be Pat Riley. A lot of people in real estate want to be Michael Jordan or LeBron. So for me, like I like creating their brand. I kind of want to, I'll give you even more school aspect of this. I want it to be like Barry Gordy, right? Like I'm Motown and everyone there is like a different band within my brand. You know what I mean? So for
Sure,
them, that's,
but even Barry Gordy has an
he
identity
has
that
Motown,
along with
right?
that body of work, right?
Right, for sure, for sure. So like my branding for me is always taking care of the people. That's sort of like the brand. You know what I mean? Like on IG, I call myself the Latinx realtor. The reason being is because I'm Latino. Latinx is huge for me. Black and brown community is huge for me. So that's my identity. That's my branding. But within that work, I work with everybody. You know what I mean? So I believe that COVID definitely stepped up like my IG game. I wasn't too big on it, nor did I care about social media prior to that. I know it's needed. So for me, I definitely got a lot better on my IG. Started a podcast, so I had to do that as well. Did a lot of speaking. So yeah, I mean, like I definitely want to work on my brand as well because I know that sometimes the picture just doesn't get past it, right? You got to have some sort of identity in this game. So yeah, I think like branding for me had to definitely step up during this past COVID time.
Absolutely. And the reason I say like even Barry Gordy had a brand was
Right.
kind of to impress upon you, like while you may be seasoned in the industry and more interested in helping others develop and curate their own brand, um, all too often I feel like we intermingle brand with the idea of influencers,
Sure.
when the fact is brand is, you used the word identity earlier, like that's what your brand is. It's
Right.
what you know yourself to be, and it's, if you just didn't say a word and asked your community to say who you are and what they thought about you, that's your brand. And just, through and through, that's something that you have. That's something that the reason I was introduced to real estate was through media and marketing. I'm an audio video geek at the core and kind of got into media production early on, which led to as the internet became more and more relevant, the tools to be able to broadcast and publish in these places only became more relevant. um, and so I find myself having a conversation with realtors who have been in the game for a couple of decades and are used to doing business a certain way, kind of helping them make a shift around what they believe brand to be. And I would just kind of say, listen, when you there's a guy at a brokerage that I used to work at that cultivated his farm by going out every 4th of July weekend and handing out some miniature flags, and going out every fall and knocking on doors and handing out pumpkins, classic case of shaking hands and kissing babies, getting out there, creating value and making connections in eventual hopes that when there's a purchase, a sale, an investment, or a referral on the line, you end up top of mind. The same game as what's being played out in social media right now, unless your social media or your podcast is a me-a-thon. If you're doing it the right way, you're creating value for whoever's on the other end in hopes that you brought a little bit of entertainment, education, or something in between to their life, and maybe they'll call you when they need to make a move or when they know somebody who does,
Right. That makes sense. Yep.
Absolutely. Tell me, let me see what kind of time I got left, man. It's been great chatting with you here. Tell me about the podcast. I just listened to episode number 4. I didn't realize in digging into this that I was going to be right one-on-one with another podcaster. I
Nice.
Before getting into more real estate related and home oriented conversations, spent some time working within the cannabis industry while I was in Colorado, and met people at trade shows and stuff, and we had these great conversations, and I was like, man, the rest of the world needs to hear this. Like, that was awesome. That 5 minutes that we had right there. Like, if the rest of the world could see or hear this, how much different would the city council or your grandma or my boss think about cannabis? So just being able to kind of bring people together. And so I've been doing that for a minute. I checked out your podcast. I would say right out of the gate, I love the production value. You're clearly not a millennial just because of nothing wrong with that, but I say that just to kind of make a joke around like the way you use bumpers. I don't even know if that word makes any sense to you. That's like such an old thing to say, but kind of the cuts and the pre-made clips that act as transitions or segues from one section to another, just like very, very well manicured, man. It's easy to slap together an audio stream and use an aggregate distributor to get your stuff up on Spotify or whatever, but it takes like a little bit of knowledge and a lot of bit of actually giving a shit to put something together like you got. I was actually just checking out episode 4. That was your social media one, right?
Yeah.
Well, how many episodes do you have now?
We have 14.
Cool.
We have 14 episodes. Yeah. To me, I do a lot of in-person events. I started the Young Professional Network here in Oakland. I'm the president of a local Hispanic chapter. I'm board of director for Chambers. So for me, networking was my core. Again, moving to Oakland, I didn't know anyone, so I had to jump on it pretty fast. So when I threw an event, I used to have hundreds of people there. Typically I was talking, typically I was hosting. So I was never big on video. Video kind of like, the moment that red button hits, sometimes people's faces change and, it just changes your whole dynamic. Talking for me was always pretty cool. So when this podcast came, I was like, okay, well, one, I never heard a podcast. So I thought of morning shows, like to me, I still listen to AM radio. I still listen to that. So to me, I was thinking of more of like the morning show when I grew up as a kid, and they had that drop, right? The prank calls, sort of like the last words and things like that. So that was pretty engaging for me.
Do you do any of that or no?
Yeah. So like the intros.
You got prank calls on your?
No, we should. We should call like realtors and pretend we actually want to submit an offer.
Or like so prank call a relentless Fizbo or something.
There you go. So we just like that concept. And then, I'm an urban guy. So for me, just keeping it that way and keeping that swag that way was super important to me. I've always prided myself in never changing my voice, no matter a listing presentation or a presentation. I'm Michael, and that's kind of who I am. So I want to keep that feel with that. So we talk about a lot of things. We talk about social media. The newest podcast is going to be about racism in real estate. We talk about murals. We have a muralist on there talking about like her connection to property owners and the voice of the community. We talk about COVID. Our first episode was about COVID in Latinx community. So we try to make it lifestyle, real estate. We keep it current. And we're just starting. I kind of felt like those 14s were like practice, like you said, you're an audio guy. I don't know audio that well. I don't even know how to like raise my viewings up on algorithms of Spotify. I just put it out. But the local community here in the Bay Area love it. They really, really love it because a lot of these people are local people. A lot of them are our friends, but they're doing good business. So for them, it's a real good, popular show here in the Bay Area, and everyone likes it. So hopefully it can get a little bit more traction. But just working on the audio part, I think is my challenge because I'm a realtor. I don't know shit. So I just sent it through like Fiverr, and hopefully a guy does something well.
Oh,
And
fuck that noise. Yo, call me for episode number 14 or whatever
oh,
it is.
okay, cool, man.
I do it at the very least. I'll show you. I don't mean that to be a pitch of like you can send it to me instead of the Fiverr guy, as
That's
much
funny.
as like the few things that you need to do. I don't know how old you are, but I'm sure you're in the space where you have the capacity to learn a couple of easy skills. It's like,
yeah,
what do you actually need to do is maybe a little bit of noise reduction, like
Right.
if your mic's too hot or whatever, kind of bring down some of the air or the hiss out of it. And then what? Drag and drop blocks around. Like you send
Yeah.
all your audio out and they do it
No,
for you?
I edit everything. I just don't know how to level out the sound. That's really it.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really it.
So
So
yeah,
I'm the one that, so like we worked really hard. So my co-host is a millennial, right? So the concept of the show is like an OG realtor versus like millennial. So it's like different mindsets of real estate.
sure.
So like I'll have an opinion about something, she'll have an opinion about something else. So it's really cool. I really like it. It's fun and it's therapy. It's kind of like everyone that comes on the show when we're done was like, wow, I kind of needed that. You know what I mean? It's like their own venting session, So it's pretty cool.
And that's part of why I continue to do this is
Nice.
like and now more than ever in the stay-at-home COVIDified landscape that we live in now, like we are doubled down into our sphere of influence, like to a point that can be arguably unhealthy at times. We're
Right.
so blinders up in whatever we know this existence to be that you can easily just kind of get lost in the wheel, so to speak. And so I read a like an interpersonal communications book, and it was a textbook that I was in college for like 11 seconds way back in the day, and there was a communications textbook that was about the concept of identity, and it basically said that if a baby were born and kept in a cell, let's call it, no windows or whatever, all other mental and emotional and physical health related issues that baby would be experiencing, the point is they would have no self-awareness, because you only establish self-awareness through your experiences with the outside world. So some simple and very shallow ways to exemplify that in real life would be like, I didn't know I was short until I stepped outside and met a really tall guy. I didn't know that people thought my jokes were dumb until I got a chance to go out and try to tell some of my dumb jokes. It's super silly, shallow examples, but I guess I give you all of that to say, like, it's absolutely true that experiences like this, whether we've known each other for 16 years or whether it's been 16 minutes, are absolutely refreshing, if for no other reason, because you leave with a little bit better of a connection with yourself, as well as whoever it is was on the other end there. So I appreciate you.
I mean, like it was the military. I mean, to be honest with you, because that's the truth, right? Because you got to see, for me at least, everything you're saying was because I got to see reality through so many different eyes. You know what I mean? So different, many communities. So when I came back, it was like, wow, maybe we are closed-minded here. So yeah, no, everything you said makes sense, because sometimes I say the same thing. It's like, sometimes people don't have an opinion because they don't have anyone else to talk to.
Absolutely.
Friends and people. I mean, my gosh, definitely changed the landscape of your thoughts, the landscape of your attitude, your mindset, and everything. So yeah, that makes sense.
Absolutely. I appreciate it. Before I let you go, we'll
Sure.
use my last question, if it's all right, as an
Yeah, you're
opportunity
good.
to maybe tease your upcoming podcast, and as it relates
Sure.
to a lot of the stuff that we've talked about today, diversity in real estate,
Hmm.
with to tie back to what we were just talking about, and sort of having your blinders on and only knowing what you know.
Hmm.
I would relate that to the increasing awareness around institutionalized racism and the places that it lives in America, so to speak.
Right.
In exploring your content and stumbling across a term like diversity in real estate, am one of the guys who, not in a derogatory way, is simply ignorant to how there could even be racism in real estate. So maybe in mind with the idea that whoever ends up seeing this might be an agent themselves, or they could just be Joe or Jane consumer, or any old buddy in your community, mine, or anything in between. For those people who would look at a headline like that and think the same thing to themselves, like where within real estate can elements of racism live and breathe? What would you say to that?
Yeah, it happens a lot. um, well, first and foremost, when you think about communities, especially here in Oakland, that were built with signs that literally said "No Black Chinese" or Mexicans allowed in this community, and they're forming that community. Think about that, right? So they built a community based on racism to racist people, and these are communities that I live in. So when I hear and I'm walking around in this neighborhood called Rock Ridge, was built in 1930 and 1940 with the mindset of no blacks, Chinese, or Mexicans. That means the developer in itself was racist, and everyone there was either racist or okay with the racism. That's a rooted community just in itself. They offspring, they people grow, they get neighbors, so on and so forth. That mindset right there in itself. So now they're not offering opportunity for us in housing when they're putting a group of people together that live and have that same mindset. So let's start another neighborhood called Montclair. So if you think about the root of individual districts or developments, quote unquote suburbs, were started off with that mindset. So we were never allowed to even be there. And the people that didn't allow us to be there are still probably alive right now. You know what I mean? Or passed down. So that's one aspect of it on how you just build racism just within the community. Then you get into like redlining where, if you have to have X amount of money, especially, right? Your race couldn't get a loan, so on and so forth. Like black people just literally couldn't get a loan for housing, even if they could afford it. And we have to put in there, like, you have to give equal rights to color. Like, why do we have to put that? Because it wasn't given, so even to this day, there's an article in the New York Times where this biracial couple, they're a white guy and a black woman, and they got their appraisal done. The appraisal came down $200,000 less than what they thought it was. She removed all the black pictures, any pictures of color. They came back and appraised it $200,000 over. And that was 2 months ago. And that was in Georgia. So yeah, I mean, there's things in there that we probably don't realize that's racist, because flat out, like, no one's ever going to say they're racist. I've never heard someone say, "Hey, I'm a racist." They're just not going to do it. They're going to deny it to the end. But when you limit sort of like housing programs for us, when you limit, abilities to where we can live, so on and so forth, when you give out more like Section 8, like I hate Section 8, to be honest with you. I think it's a trap for us. Government housing, I think, is a trap for us as well. They're giving us handouts where we should have opportunity. And that's what I don't like either, because once you make X amount of money, you have to leave that house now. So why would the person want to make any more money if they know they can live there for $100 a month? Why would you encourage them to make more money if that's what they have to do? Right. So there's a lot of things in there that, one, that didn't allow us to be there. Two, is limiting us to be there. And when they're giving it to us, like below market rate. Have you heard of that before? Below market rate housing?
No.
So basically it's saying like, oh, we have this big old condo unit coming up in the ghetto. So we're going to make the first floor below market. So all those homes right here are selling for 700. We're going to sell them for 400. So we can help the community stay in the community, right? However, once you sell that house, you must split that equity with the developer. So the point of home ownership is equity growth, right?
Sure.
So you'll let me in, but I can't make as much. And if I do, I have to split it with you. So again, to me, racism in real estate is it's there. It's not diverse. It's not inclusive. There's not a lot of things in different languages. We speak a lot of dialects. So a lot of it is prone to just, what it was, white American English speaking people. So that's why us coming together, talking about this, acknowledging, like you said, like, I didn't know, now like, hopefully you can share this now, right? That's the whole point of this.
Absolutely. And so the next step after knowing and having that awareness is some degree of action from an agent's perspective, whether it's you and your very own experiences or the agent body at large in the country. What can real estate agents be doing, for lack of better terms, to have a positive impact on changing that?
Well, I think gentrification, if you think about it here, is just educating the people of the neighborhood, of understanding that, like, yeah, you may be buying this nice Victorian here, but two houses down, that's Mrs. Johnson's house. And maybe you should meet Mrs. Johnson and understand that, don't take away so much of the culture. The lady who was on our podcast doing the muralist, she had a big vendor party where her street was, because everyone in that neighborhood is no longer in that neighborhood. So she wanted to bring it back to show people, like, hey, this is what it used to be like. And it was vendors out there, food selling, music playing, and people got to understand that. So I think the first step is like, okay, that's fine. Yeah, we're not going to give people no rights and not sell their house. They want to sell their house, and they sell their house. They want to sell it for a certain price. Who are we to say that, right?
Right.
But giving back to the neighborhood, maybe give back a little bit of that commission to that neighborhood that you're gentrifying. Maybe introduce people to the neighborhood and get them to understand the culture. That's what I would say. That's where it first starts with.
Awesome. All good stuff, Michael. I won't keep you a minute
All right,
longer. I
brother.
appreciate you making the time. Is there anything you would like to share or haven't had an opportunity to that I should be kicking myself in the rear for not having asked today?
Oh man, I'm an OG realtor, man. So like, you give me a cup of coffee or a beer, we'll probably speak for hours. So let's just keep the conversation going, man. You need me to come back and talk some more stuff? Definitely will. Knowledgeable in a lot of areas. I mean, real estate has so many different ways you can cut it up. Be it real estate investment, be a real estate investor, property management, commercial. There's so much to talk about when it comes to real estate. I've been fortunate to do a lot of those stuff in 16 years. Yeah, just let's keep the conversation going. Like I said, podcast is What's Up Real Estate. We're pretty much on all platforms, but thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I appreciate you making the time. Enjoy the rest of your Monday and have a great week. Definitely chop it up again soon, man. I appreciate you.
All right, brother. Be good.
All right, you too. Thanks.
Peace.
See ya.